Okay guys, welcome back. 14.4, we got the chipper. 60 calorie row, 50 toes to bar, 40 wall ball, 30 cleans, and then 20 muscle ups. Obviously 2 rounds in 14 minutes would be sweet. Not gonna happen, but we're gonna see the top score somewhere in here. Now, let's start to think about this warm up first. I want you to take at least 10-15 minutes to do a good general warm up. Get your heart rate high, do maybe some animal movement patterns, some dynamic mobility, just whatever you would do for your workout. Just do your general warm up first. From there, we're gonna jump on the rower 4 times, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Start at maybe 75-80% effort on the higher effort. Build it up by 5% each time, whatever that means to you. Make sure you finish the last 1 or 2 at your race pace that you're gonna use for the actual row. The 30-second rest is going to be about 50-60% effort. Stay on the row. From there, we're going to go through the mobility in a different video. Make sure you hit the mobility at this point, and then the 27 squats as well. Those different foot positions to prep you for the wall ball. So we got the neutral, toes out, toes in, neutral stance, wide stance, narrow stance, 1 foot and the other foot forward. It's on the previous prep video, so just go check it out, use it. And then make sure you do plenty of skill prep and practice if required at the beginning. Efficiency on toes to bar and the muscle up is really going to be key for your success. Make sure you know how to row, what the sequence is. Don't just pull like a fool. Make sure you're using those hips. And then finally on the warm-up, just do between 1 and 3 rounds, 2 to 3 for most of you would be ideal. Row, toes to bar, wall ball, clean, and that muscle up. Okay, so you just go through the whole thing. 6 reps, 5, 4, 3, 2. Repeat. Use that time to really focus on the transitions. Where do I set my equipment? How do I transition? Don't do them all in a row. Just do 1 round, reset, adjust, check your filming is correct at that point, film those warm-ups so everything is good to go, okay? You should be able to handle that. Then, the mobility piece that we're gonna have separate is gonna be shoulders, thoracic spine, it's gonna be hips, it's gonna be ankles. Check out the video. On the setup, guys, I need you to keep a close setup. You're gonna have a lot of transitions. You don't wanna waste your time in the transitions. You might want to make the setup so that when you finish a movement, it's easy for you to transition to the next, okay? So there's a logical order in which you move, and in the end, the muscle ups should be close to the rower, of course, so if you have just a little bit of time, you can still jump on the rower and get some calories in. Make sure you check the filming, okay? This is going to be tricky to film, so go and check the website, go and check the example video, see how they filmed it, see what kind of setup works for you, and like I said, make sure you check it in here during the warm-up. You don't want to mess that up. Now, let's go through the movements. On the row, obviously a couple simple things. The setup on the row is going to be important, so you want to make sure that the foot is set on the pad, so that it's fully on the pad. Make it easy for yourself. Make sure you're driving through the heel, through the whole foot. The damper setting, for most rowers, they would go 2 to 3 damper setting, probably maybe up to 4. For most CrossFitters, I recommend you go more, so between 5, 7.5 even, to get those calories in a little bit faster, okay? Most of you can handle that higher damper setting just fine. Now, as far as the pacing is concerned on the row, here's some average times that some of these are just found online, so I would maybe not trust them. Average split 500 meter split times and the time it takes to row 60 calories. Now, I just tested out 145, about 235 finish for the 60 calories. It didn't feel too bad. Little high heart rate, but guess what? Your heart rate's gonna go down on the toes to bar, so it's gonna be just fine to push the average speed just a little faster than you think you should be going, because you're gonna have those rests on the toes to bar and the heart rate is gonna come back down. Now, if you go in this cold, it's gonna be a hard day, so that warm-up becomes important. Make sure all engines are running. Now, from there, check your pace, figure out where you are, test it out. This is a workout that you can easily repeat, so you might learn something on the first go. As you move on to toes to bar, some of you might think that you're gonna do big sets, but I recommend that you start to break it down from the beginning. If you're a ninja, maybe you hit a set of 10, maybe 15, but you have to be really good at toes to bar, and then break it down to 5s, and you might end up breaking it to 3s, to 2s, even to 1s. The key thing is to keep momentum going. You don't want to stop. You don't want to have a super long rest. So come down, rest, pace yourself, 1, 2, 3, back on the bar, and repeat, okay? You want to keep momentum going. Now, if you go to failure, you're not going to keep that momentum going. So you might want to make sure that you slow down, come off the bar well before that point. 2, 3, 4 reps before you feel like you fail, especially at the beginning. Don't do a big set, go to failure, and then do singles. The rest needs to be short. Now, a couple tricks that will help you on the toes to bar. First, bend the knee and kick on the way up. So don't do straight leg version. It's going to be slower for you to do. It's going to tax you a little bit more. Okay? If that's the only one you have, do it. If you have options, I think the bent knee and kick is going to be a better option. Head position. If you look up, you're going to start using your shoulders excessively. And you have those muscle ups coming up. So you want to make sure you save the shoulders. 2 tricks, keep the head position neutral. Okay, it's going to help. You're not going to use the shoulder as much. And then second one is, if you've tried this before and if you're used to it, the reverse grip is going to allow you to use less shoulder and close more on the hip, as you're supposed to do, the toes to bar, so to speak. So if you can use this grip, I prefer this one. It also gives you the option of, if you start to burn out, in here you can turn around the grip and start to engage more of the lats if that's what you need to do to get through those toes to bar. Okay? This gives you more options. This is just one option. So play around with it in the warm-up and see how you feel. If you don't like it, ditch it, do the toes to bar like you would do them. I would also set the bar to a height or build a platform as needed so that I can just easily jump up, feet just off the ground to meet the standard, but so that if I do singles, it's going to be fast for me to do those singles and I don't need to drop down from super high. Okay? So just consider that, put some plates underneath as needed. When you move on to the wall balls, you might again think that you're going to do a set of 40, but it's unlikely to happen. Look at what happened to Josh Bridges and Scott Pantrick. They broke it down as well. What I recommend is you do a 1 big set, and then whatever that means to you, and then you're going to break it down to 1 to 4 more sets. Okay, so depending on your capacity at that point, you don't want to end up doing like 10 sets. Okay, it should be few sets, but somewhere between 1 to 5 is probably going to be fine. Couple tips: when you rest, some people like to rest against the wall. That makes it hard for me to breathe. I don't like that. I'd rather drop the last rep and pick the ball up from the ground. I know some people really like to just lean the ball against the ground, shake their hands off, and go again. Try it out. Use the one that works for you. Hand position-wise, for the wall ball, just put the hands underneath the ball so you get good line of action to push the ball up. Much more relaxed than keeping the elbows out and pressing against the ball. This is going to get your forearms more pumped. This is going to be nice and easy, nice and relaxed, so use that. For stance, the normal stance tends to mean that you go a little bit deeper, and going wider, even though it makes you a tiny bit shorter, is going to allow you to use the hips to bounce off from and find that depth rather than using your knees to bounce off from and then go deeper. Okay, so you want to get that stretch reflex at the bottom, so slightly wider stance is going to help you to find it from the hips rather than from the knees. Okay, again, play around with this, find the stance that works for you. Make sure you extend through the whole foot, driving through the heel, ending up on the toes. You want to use your hips as much as possible to get the ball up, to save your arms for what's about to happen. Now, as you go on the power clean, again, a lot of you think you're going to do touch and go and you're going to do a big set to start off with, but you want to think A, you're going to be a little fatigued, and B, you got those muscle ups waiting for you afterwards. So we just actually play around with this. Some people do prefer touch and go, they feel it's going to be better. If you go touch and go, sets of 5 maybe max for most of you. Short rest. The trick is, if you go 5 touch and go and you rest 10 seconds, you're going to be slower than if you just go drop and follow the bar. So my preferred option is drop and follow the bar. As you bring the bar down, you just chase it down, you let it go, and then you just pick it up straight from the ground. Okay, so it's essentially one big set of 30 reps rather than sets of 5 or sets of 3 across the board. And I think that's going to be a little bit faster than doing the touch and go. But again, play around in your practice. If you're going to do it tomorrow, try it today, and then go after full workout tomorrow when you know which one is the better choice for you. If you're going to go with singles, you want to have plates that just die off when they fall on the ground. Okay, so maybe multiple plates to set up the right weight, or just choose a plate that just dies off. It doesn't have a big bounce, otherwise you end up chasing the bar around the gym. The key on the just dropping the clean is that you follow it through and it doesn't bounce away, and you can go straight in. The other trick here is that the clips, you might want to have 2 sets of clips if you're going to drop the bar, because the clips will start to move away, the weights will move away, it's going to be unbalanced. It's just unnecessary for you to play around with that. So double clip it if you're going to drop the reps. And then finally, the key thing is keep moving and have set rest. If you go touch and just go up and drop, you don't need to really rest, you just keep going. If you do take a rest, at some point there, just walk back in, set 5 breaths, 3 breaths, count to 5, count to 3, whatever your trick is to keep yourself on the pace. Don't just kind of let the rest happen. Dictate the time and go after it each time. You just want to push that momentum, keep it going. Once you move on to the muscle ups, now we've got to think about, are you going to do multiples, are you going to do singles? Most of you, hopefully, if you're going to go for the higher score, you're going to go for a bigger set at the beginning, a couple times, and then smaller sets, and then maybe singles in the end. Probably more than 5 is going to be a bad idea unless you're a ninja. Okay, so maybe start with a set of 3 and go down, start with a set of 4 or set of 5, wherever you are, start to go down from there. Once you finish your set, or if you do singles, I need you to drop down from the top. Okay, you don't need to lower yourself down, it's going to cost you too much. And dropping down and controlling the rings as you drop down is going to be a better plan. You saw how Scott Panchik could still jump up even the rings were swaying quite a lot. So don't worry too much about that. Just control the rings on the way down, but let yourself fall down. Save yourself a little. No miss reps, okay? It's going to cost you a fair amount if you miss a rep on the muscle up, just time-wise and recovery and just mentally. If you do miss one, just don't worry about it. Just swipe it on the side and keep going. But a couple cues to keep you on track, just technical things and anchor points that you can go back to. First, delay the arms and delay the hips, okay? Wait till you get really well behind the rings. Keep your feet and knees tight. That's on the back position as you swing back. Make sure your feet are together, knees are tight, so that you can then use that momentum to get back up on the next kip. Nose to toes, that's for the transition to make sure you get through the rings, okay? You don't want to go like halfway through, you want to get all the way through, so push your nose to your toes. And then keep the elbows tight. Some of you will start to flare out, so hit yourself in the ribs or punch someone behind you, whatever your cue is. Keep the elbows tight to your sides. It's going to be the trick, okay? There's a bunch of stuff you can see on the muscle ups. I would go ahead and check out Carl Pauli's videos on the muscle up prep. Go through the preparation. Make sure you get those anchors so you can go back into those once you lose your technique, if that were to happen. Now, obviously, once you finish the muscle up, it's straight back to the row or all in, and then hopefully some toes to bar. That'd be sweet. Let's think about pacing to finish this off. The row, I think you can go pretty hard. I think you can go a little harder than you think because you will recover on toes to bar. Your heart rate is going to come down. Okay, it's kind of like opposing movements that we're doing, even though the hip flexion pattern is going to be pretty similar. I think you can go a little harder than you think. Check the pacing, find what works for you. You might want to test out just the row and see how you feel afterwards. Your heart rate is going to go down toes to bar, but you do need to pace them. You need to break them down maybe to smaller sets than you think. Maybe 5s from the beginning, maybe 10, then 5s, and then smaller sets. Don't try to go for 50 in a row. Once you get to the wall ball, start with the big set. Then finish with 1 to 4 smaller sets, whatever that means to you. I recommend that kind of positive mindset of descending rep scheme. So don't just do same sets across like 10, 10, 10, 10. It's much better to start with the bigger set and know that you have less reps to do on each following set. On the power cleans, I recommend fast singles. At this point, I might be proven wrong throughout the weekend. If you feel like touch and go is the way, then you need to control the rest between the sets. Be very mindful of that. Be mindful of losing your forearms and your grip on those. Check out Chad Van Goorn's ideas on touch and go in there. And then on the muscle up, you have to make a decision. It's going to be singles from the beginning or sets. The second muscle up tends to be easier than the first one. So if you can do sets at the beginning, go for the sets. If you do singles, make sure you drop down. Keep the momentum going. You will feel a little sorry for yourself at that point. So when you think you can't go yet, you probably can go if you've got those muscle ups down. So try to keep yourself moving on the muscle up. Don't feel sorry. Don't walk away from the rings. Okay, stay close to them. You'll be more compelled to go back up there. And then once you get to the row in the end, it's all in. Whatever you have, and this is where the setup is important. Don't lose the time in transitions. If you can go efficiently from one movement to the next, you're much more likely to get the numbers in here, because that's going to be a couple seconds will make a difference on the calories, and that's going to make a big difference on the leaderboard. Okay, so tight setup, follow that pace, try this out at least once, then go again. You're going to do better on the second time, promise.